For the next minute, let's open with a truth every historian and craftsman eventually bumps into. Our ancestors built things that outlasted entire civilizations, yet many of us today don't know how they did it. Think of the medieval timber frames still standing straight in England, the Norse churches that have endured storms for half a millennium, or the Japanese temples that survived earthquakes without a single nail. Their secret wasn't magic or superior wood. It was the bond. A bond so strong it held against rain, wind, time, and human neglect. And if you've ever wondered how medieval builders kept wood from splitting, slipping, or rotting apart, then you're about to learn a technique that still works as flawlessly today as it did 6 centuries ago. The fascinating part is that it requires no modern tools, no chemical glue, no industrial fasteners. Just knowledge, patience, and wood. That's the moment medieval ingenuity beats modern convenience, and it's why this technique deserves more attention. Now that we've set the stage, let's walk straight into the heart of it. Medieval builders understood that the strongest bond wasn't metal, but wood locking into wood. In the medieval era, iron was expensive, scarce, and labour-intensive to produce. Nails were not things you casually use by the handful. Most homes, barns, mills, and workshops relied on what builders called joinery, the skill of carving wood so it locked into itself through tension, geometry, and pressure. The most famous of these was the mortise and tenon joint, a system where a carved tongue on one beam slid perfectly into a matching pocket on another. When fit tightly, the joint behaved like a single piece of wood, refusing to twist or separate even under extreme stress. Some medieval churches still standing today rely on nothing more than these joints gripping each other for centuries, surviving heavy snow loads, shifting winds, and the slow settling of the earth. The reason this ancient method worked so well is simple. The forces running through a structure naturally compress the joint instead of pulling it apart. Builders weren't just constructing homes, they were channeling physics in their favour. The technique lasted because craftsmen built joints to respond to the wood's natural movement. Modern carpenters fight against wood shrinking, swelling, and warping. Medieval builders embraced it. They selected green wood for certain joints, slightly moist, slightly swollen. Then they cut the mortise slightly smaller than the tenon, knowing that as the wood dried and shrank, it would tighten instead of loosen. Time became part of the bonding process. The joint didn't just stay strong, it grew stronger. You can test this same principle today. If you ever build a simple frame, say a gate, stool, or even a tool handle, you can replicate the method by cutting a snug tenon on one piece of lumber and a precise mortise on another. Assemble them while the lumber still holds a little moisture. When the wood dries, you'll feel the bond tighten. Some people wedge a small sliver of hardwood inside the tenon before insertion, forcing even more outward pressure as it seats itself. This was a medieval trick used in barns and military structures where soldiers needed absolute reliability. Medieval joiners also relied on a forgotten bonding agent that honestly most modern people just overlook. Many people don't know that medieval carpenters did sometimes use glue, but it wasn't the chemical adhesives we think of today. They created hide glue, a natural adhesive made by boiling animal collagen until it produced a thick, sticky substance. When brushed into a joint and allowed to cool, it formed a surprisingly durable bond. But here's the key to why it lasted centuries. Hide glue doesn't seal wood. It fuses to it on a molecular level. It remains reversible with heat and moisture, which allowed craftsmen to repair joints without destroying the wood. You can still buy hide glue today, and museum conservators rely on it to restore medieval furniture because it ages gracefully and never becomes brittle like synthetic adhesives. A simple experiment can show its strength. Take 2 pieces of scrap hardwood, apply warm hide glue to both surfaces, clamp them, and let them rest for a day. If you try to break the bond, you'll notice something astonishing. The wood fibers often fail before the glue does. That's the same principle that kept medieval furniture and buildings intact long after the builders themselves had passed away. This ancient woodworking wisdom has modern uses that go far beyond historical reenactment. If you're restoring old furniture, building long-lasting garden structures, or simply wanting to craft something that will survive generations, medieval joinery gives you a timeless advantage. A simple trellis made with mortise and tenon joints won't wobble or sag the way nailed boards do after seasonal changes. A tool handle fitted with a tapered tenon can remain secure even under constant strain. And, for those who enjoy historical craftsmanship, recreating a medieval chest, beam joint or work table becomes far more satisfying when you know you're using the same method someone relied on hundreds of years ago. This is the difference between disposable modern projects and work that can someday be passed down. When you begin to understand the bond, you stop building temporary objects and start building legacy pieces. This technique remains one of the greatest examples of medieval engineering beating modern shortcuts. We live in an age where convenience often replaces mastery, but the medieval wood bond reminds us that technique and intelligence outperform hardware. These joints didn't survive because they were lucky. They survived because they were engineered with an understanding of force, moisture, aging, and material behavior. In a world that often favors the quick fix, rediscovering the patience and skill of the past offers more than just nostalgia. It gives us tools that still outperform many modern solutions, especially in harsh climates, shifting foundations, or long-term wear. If you found this breakdown valuable and want deeper dives into ancient engineering, lost building techniques, and the clever survival strategies of our ancestors, make sure to subscribe, share this guide, and join the community that keeps history alive and practical.